the thing this week, right? Which, like you said, we do all expect him to play. Even expected that last Saturday watching that Arkansas LSU game. I thought, man, there ain't no way Sam Pittman and Kendall Briles are going to sit there and watch that again for another week. Uh, that was tough to watch on the offensive side of the ball for them. And this is a big game for KJ. He always gets up to play these Mississippi teams, and rightfully so, especially Ole Miss being right down the road there in North Panola. They're in the Sardis area, and uh, you know, us not going after him. So I mean, it's a big game for him. It's a big game for his family. He always plays well against us. He's a heck of a player, heck of an athlete. He's really, really tough to defend. When he gets going downhill, he's a real load to bring down. So I expect to see a lot of that this Saturday when he suits up against us. And when we get our hands on him, we're going to have to get him down to the ground, which has been a little bit of a problem for us this year with ball carriers. But that's one thing we're going to have to sure up, especially when he suits up on Saturday.
Hey Tom, and with KJ Jefferson having a clavicle issue in the shoulder, and he is a physical runner whenever he runs the ball. Don't you think that could kind of hamper the way he'd like to play? And there's a chance he's just more of a, I don't know, a distraction than an actual effective player, just better than Malik Hornsby or Cade Fortin?
Oh, I definitely think that he's not going to be 100%. He's been beat up pretty hard this year. I just think, like it's already been mentioned, he would go out there missing a leg to play against Ole Miss, and he's going to give it his best. But I don't think we're going to see the same KJ Jefferson we saw last year. I don't think he has the offensive weapons. It's going to be really cold. It's going to be a running game duel between two good running teams.
Yeah, it's a situation where in years past, the cold weather going up and playing Arkansas and playing them in November, the cold weather would affect us because we were predominantly a passing team. So Jordan Tamu would be all bundled up in Little Rock. Everybody remembers what that looks like. And there's been some cold games they played. But this Ole Miss team, more than most any other, is equipped to handle the cold weather about as well as you can. So it's going to be, I think, a Quinshon Judkins and Jackson Dart versus KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, and the team that can stop that the most wins. What do you think, Kara?
Yeah, I actually was going to say, I don't think KJ is actually the key here. I kind of disagree. I think Rocket's the key. We have not done really well versus the run. We haven't done well with tackling and getting guys down. We kind of do that side little tackle thing, the push. I don't know why, but that's kind of been our thing that we haven't gotten over. And I think that Rocket's going to be our key to kind of keeping him down, because I agree with what Tom said. I think KJ is a little banged up. I think Rocket's going to be should be our main focus.
Derek, what key am I not thinking of whenever we go into this Arkansas game? What key should we think of that maybe we're not thinking of? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at Arkansas this year. I've watched a good bit of them throughout the years. I'm sure y'all have as well. They have a lot of trouble on the back end of their defense. Like this could be a prime time for Jackson to take some shots, even with the cold weather. And I know the ball's slicker and all that stuff. It makes it harder for teams to pass, which is definitely going to be a challenge for us. But if you look at the defense of Arkansas, that's one area where you say that you can attack and get big chunk plays because they're going to be loading up the box and trying to stop Quinshon in that run game. So you're not going to take just a whole lot of shots downfield. I wouldn't think, with the weather being what it is, especially if you get any kind of precipitation mixed in with that. What's supposed to be like 20 degrees or something up there Saturday, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's the coldest kickoff that Arkansas has had as a member of the Southeastern Conference.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty crazy. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean you definitely have to take you got to take your shots when they're available. You can't take too many of them in that kind of weather. But that could end up being the difference of the game. When those guys start creeping up, they're really good at the front end of that defense, and they're a really good tackling team. That's their strength. And Barry Odom, I mean, you saw it last weekend, and you've seen it throughout his entire career, quite frankly. But he's an elite game planner on the defensive side of the ball. He's an elite defensive mind. He knows what he's doing on that side of the ball. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously we got to run the ball because that's our identity. That's who we are. But when you have shots downfield, we got to be able to hit them because that's where they're susceptible on the back end of that defense.
Yeah, Tom, Quinshon Judkins, 142 yards away from breaking an Ole Miss record that was set 73 years ago. That's the year before my dad was born. So there's a chance he could set this weekend, isn't there?
Oh yeah. There's definitely a chance he can set it this weekend. As a matter of fact, I'd be surprised if he did not set it this weekend. Especially after hearing that through the grapevine that it doesn't look like Zach Evans is going to get to play Saturday. So he's not going to have to split carries with him. So yeah, I'm going to say that he's going to break it Saturday.
Yeah, thanks to the targeting from the Alabama game.
Oh God, don't even get me started on all that.
The play that turned it around for Alabama.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of ways, that game was a lot like the 2014 game. It just went the other direction. Instead of Bo Wallace hitting Jalen Walton for the winning touchdown, the pass fell incomplete. It was pretty similar to that 2014 game, honestly.
Yeah, because even back in that game, you had that fumble, scoop, and score right there before halftime.
Halftime. Everybody thought was going to put it away for Alabama. But I think the difference in that game is that made it like 14-3 Alabama or something like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We went from being down 1 score to 2 score going into halftime there, and this one here turned it right the opposite way. Instead of us being up 2 scores, it was us only up 1 score.
Yeah. So pretty interesting stuff. Kara, now I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. What are you hearing on social media this week?
Oh my gosh, I don't even think people know we play Arkansas this week. I think Auburn has taken over our life. Like, I think the lane stuff is just completely mass for the most part that we even are playing Arkansas this week.
Yeah, and if you look at my video today, I don't even know if it's hit 1,000 views yet.
And I think there's just a lot of focus on Lane and what Lane's gonna do, and honestly, we should probably be more focused, on the fact that we have a chance to go 10-2 again, back to back, and I'll be honest, I really see no merit to anything that's being shared. Just kind of mask a lot of the same thing we saw with Oregon, and very much the same kind of style. And I just think that we're giving this way too much attention.
Well, and this is not a political statement, so nobody hear it as a political statement. But this sounds a lot like a week before Election Day, to where we're going to absolutely dominate. It's going to happen. Then the Election Day, the last 4 cycles, that hadn't happened. So whoever's been the party that's saying, "Hey, we're going to do this, this, and this," and it just doesn't materialize. So I have trouble believing anything at all. But I will say this. If Lane Kiffin got a bug and left, and that is always possible with a football coach, because just like anybody else, you're just changing jobs. There's no self-ownership to it. You're going from one place to another, trying to better yourself and trying to achieve what you want to achieve. So whenever that happens, everything that we think's important isn't going to be important. So I think that it's going to be very important for everybody in the Ole Miss fan base. I don't think Lane Kiffin is going to go. I don't think he's going to take this opportunity. I think Lane Kiffin wants to be the head coach at Alabama, and you can't be the head coach at Alabama and be the head coach at Auburn. Nope. That'd be like us hiring Dan Mullen.
No.
So, but for whatever reason, I think that Ole Miss people need to prepare in case he says yes, and they need to be ready for it, because if it might not happen with Auburn, it might happen with somebody else. Something could happen in this offseason where the New Orleans Saints come open, something like that. And that happens, can be kind of strung along. So you need to be
Yeah.
prepared. And the list I am seeing people float around is an abomination. It is so bad. I mean, if we do that, it's like, hey, let's go way backwards. Let's go back before Hugh Freeze and make a Houston Nutt type hire. That is what these lists are doing.
Yeah. We're just kind of touching on the Lane Kiffin thing real quick. Like I'm not even remotely worried about Auburn as this off season. If Lane Kiffin leaves us, I think it's an NFL job, kind of like you said. Saints or somebody like that opens up. That's where I think we need to be worried about this offseason, because Alabama's where he wants to be as far as college goes. Like that's the college that's at the top of his list for college jobs. And you can't go coach Auburn and then turn around and go coach Alabama. So if that's really true, that's his number one job in college, then by default he can't take the Auburn job.
Yeah, and everything that we're hearing about it is noise.
Yeah, well, of course it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not in contract negotiations with Lane Kiffin with 2 games left in the season. That's the one that always gets me. Like they've made an offer. They're getting to the finish line. No, Lane Kiffin has not given them the time of day to talk about a contract with Arkansas. Well, at that point, Alabama coming up, and then Arkansas and State to follow. He's not talking about that.
Steven, talking about that list that has been circulating, they have Bill O'Brien on that list, and I just want to know whoever did that.
Yeah,
I just
there's
sit down
gotta
and
be
be
a
like,
troll.
"Honey, baby, let's talk." Let's talk on
Whoever
where
put
thought
that list together needs to not put lists together and does not have any capacity of control whatsoever. Because somebody put Alex Galesh, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, because obviously Tennessee has a good offense. Not
it has
his
nothing to do
offense.
with
That'd
it.
be like hiring Charlie Weiss Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It has nothing to do with him.
yeah, and if you don't know that, you should have no decision making ability in the future.
Yeah, well, that was like Oklahoma going and getting Jeff Lebby because of how good our offense was the last 2 years, and we saw how that worked out.
Yeah. The important thing is, and like I said, I do not think Lane's going to go anywhere, but I think this is an interesting hypothetical conversation because eventually Lane is going to go.
Well, yeah, at some point.
At some point he's going to do it.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, you have a whole bunch of people that has been boxed out with Lane Kiffin coming in and taking over and being the complete face of our program. And all of those guys are going to try and reestablish themselves.
Well, and that's kind of another thing about Lane Kiffin not going anywhere. How many other programs in the country is Lane Kiffin going to where he has total control like he does at Ole Miss?
No, he doesn't. It doesn't exist.
And it sure ain't happening down on the plains.
And how many programs that he can go to that he can spend 3 months down in Boca Raton?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he does whatever he wants to up here, and he does it because he's winning. And the way he has changed things here at Ole Miss, and he touched on.
He's about to get $10 million. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he is, and not only is he going to get $10 million, he's going to get it to do whatever the hell he wants to do, the way he wants to do it, with nobody stepping in and say, you've got to hire this guy, got to get rid of this guy, you've got to run a program a certain way. No, you're going to do it the Lane Kiffin way, and then he'll load up on a plane, go down to Boca Raton for a week or whatever, and come back, and then he'll win 10 games and keep us in contention for the SEC.
Yeah. It's just the way it is. And if you want to know what I think Auburn's going to do, I think Cadillac Williams is going to get that job. I think it's a situation where they're going to beat Western Kentucky this weekend, and they are going to play the jock off of Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, now that I 100% agree with. They will get up for that game just because of Cadillac there leading.
And I think it's going to be him getting the head job. I think Kendall Briles is going to be hired as the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator is going to be Kevin Steele.
I'll buy that.
I don't know if I think they have appreciation for Cadillac, but I don't think Cadillac at the end of the day is going to have the experience. I could be wrong, but I
You let him beat Alabama and see if they're going to turn him down for that
Well,
head coach
no,
job.
the problem that Auburn is going to have in this search, honestly, is all of their eggs are in one basket, and then after this, they're going to panic.
Scrambling.
Yeah, they're going to scramble because they think all this is done. Because in their head, they think there's no way that Lane Kiffin can possibly stay at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not even a possibility. If they want him, they can get him. So if he says no, there is no plan B for them.
Yeah, and again, they very well may get him. I'm not saying there's absolutely no chance that he doesn't go to Auburn.
No,
If
he's
he
a
goes,
coach.
yeah, I mean, but if he goes, they're going to pay him such an absurd amount of money that they're never going to be able to get rid of him and do anything else.
Oh yeah. The only way that they would get him out of Ole Miss is if he has a Jimbo-like contract.
Yes, fully guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
All that.
$100 million fully guaranteed.
Yeah. All right, we got somebody wanting to speak here. College football headlines.
What's up, bud? You're muted, college football.
Oh, no. Sorry, I was transferring my ticket. I'm sending in one of my buddies for the Egg Bowl. Nothing. I just came in to listen and talk to the conversation. I saw Carrie was up in here. Just wanted to say what's up.
Oh, okay. Nice to have you, man. We're sitting here talking about the crazy week that was, and
trust me, I'm a student here at Ole Miss, and trust me, I've been seeing Auburn go bananas all week.
Yeah, it's been absolutely nuts. My boss runs also the Locked On Auburn site.
Oh boy.
So my manager is actually the Locked On Auburn person, and I'm getting text message like, clear your schedule for tomorrow. And I was like, there's not going to be a coach hired in the middle of the season.
No, it's exactly like I'm waiting. November 14th was yesterday. I thought it was supposed to go down as a monumental day in history, but no history was made on November 14th. Yeah. Typical Auburn fashion.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Look, we will have an answer on Lane Kiffin's future at Ole Miss the Sunday after the Egg Bowl.
Like, I mean, there has been a confirmed report that Auburn has reached out to Sexton, but that doesn't mean much.
Well, yeah. I mean,
he represents every percent of head coaches in college football.
Yeah, of course they've reached out to Sexton.
And if their guy is Hugh Freeze, they've reached out to Sexton.
Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of like the whole Auburn private jet landing in Memphis. People making a big deal about that, you know.
Yeah, they're going to see Jimmy. He's going to see Jimmy.
Yeah, of course they're going to see Jimmy. If you want to get a college football coach, you go see Jimmy Sexton.
Yeah. Hey, Steven and Kara, I have a question for y'all. I just wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know if y'all discussed this already on the Alabama game. Just want to see what y'all had to think of it.
The Alabama game, the fan base was amazing. The stadium was amazing. I have not heard Vaught Hemingway sound like that in a very long time, probably since 2014. The game was absolutely good. After the game, I did not feel discouraged. It was a rare time when Ole Miss just went in there and went toe-to-toe with Alabama. They just lost a football game.
We lost by a matter of, I wish I could say inches, but 17 yards.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like in 2020, Alabama gained every yard that can possibly be gained in a football game except 7 yards. There's 7 yards that Ole Miss's defense preventing them to get in the whole game. The next year was a 42-21 game. And then this year this happens. So next year, go over to Alabama. Don't get beat by the logo on the helmet. Bow up and beat them down.
I will say, though, if you think about it, the only thing I will kind of criticize on it is sometimes the analytics. Because if you look back to going for it versus taking the field goal, all we would have needed was a field goal to win that game.
Yeah,
Are you tied? Sorry, yes, you're right. We tied.
Yeah.
And we go to overtime. That's the only thing I will criticize a little bit is the fact that sometimes I question when the analytics are needed, sometimes when Lane needs to go for the points.
Yeah,
typically I understand the analytic part, but I think in a game like Alabama, you've got to take the points.
Yeah, every possession needs to end with a kick because the biggest momentum swing that anybody can get, defense included, is if they stop you on a fourth down. That is the biggest swing in the game. And in a game against Alabama, the biggest game that you're going to play this year, that momentum swing can't happen. Now, The score, they might not have got away with it, but they kind of got away with it by stopping them and Alabama's offense being really bad in the first quarter. But those 3 points means we're up 10 points at halftime or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever the number was. And the game could be a little bit different situation. The larger lead we have, eventually Saban went to murder ball, benched Jahmyr Gibbs, put Jace McClellan in there and started powering, doing all the stuff that everybody tries to do against us. And they might not have been able to do that if the lead was 3 points further ahead.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about that is kind of going back to your statement about not getting beat or being afraid by the logo on the helmet. That's what we've done all year. You know, he's gone for it. He's done it for 3 years or however long he's been here now, and you know that's just Lane Kiffin. That's the way he is. That's the way he coaches. It's won games for us, and that's one game that, you know, obviously you look back and say, well, if we would have kicked those field goals, yeah, we'd be in a better position to do it. But also, how many times has it worked out in our favor on top of it too? So, you know,
last year if they kicked the field goals, Ole Miss is in the playoff.
Well,
Once they beat Auburn.
I'm just saying, Derek, like I'm not against the NLAs with you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree. But I think in certain games like this one, it's almost pertinent you take the points sometimes. Like, I think some games you have to have a different game plan there than others.
It's like the Arkansas LSU game where you have a backup quarterback in the game. The analytics probably say you go for it from the 2-yard line, but you have a backup quarterback in. The numbers are not going to be the same. So on the sheet of paper, it might say, hey, you've got a 70% chance of winning if you pull this off, but your chance of actually doing it is slim because you are so limited on what you can do. Arkansas not taking those 3 points likely cost them the game. So, I mean, you have to be careful and be aware of what your situation is. And against Alabama Saturday, Ole Miss was a team that could play with Alabama. They could play them straight up. And you didn't need to go and do gimmicky type stuff. You could have actually just played football and beat them. That's what I saw that day.
I will say that was my main critique. Everything else, I can't really yell at Chris. I think Chris, you know, called a hell of a game. I think our defense played as well as they could. I really can't say much against it.
Though I think our defensive line rotation was so much better than it has been in the games prior. Oh, my God.
Cedric Johnson's healthy. That's what it looked like on May Saturday. Cedric Johnson's healthy.
That's quite a difference there.
And you know what I got to say? I mean, I wouldn't say this is disappointing, and I really like the man, and he's really, he's contributed to the team in a good way. But Kari Coleman, he's got to figure out what position he wants to play, dude. If he wants to play linebacker, become a traditional linebacker. If you want to play edge, get big. But I can't have you as this slim guy that can barely get any pressure on the quarterback.
I think he was recruited as that, though, to be this hybrid role that can play defensive end and linebacker, depending on whether they go to a 3 or a 4 front.
I just don't trust him in coverage.
Yeah, I don't either, because at TCU he was a defensive end. We did videos all season about worrying about Kari Coleman actually having to play linebacker. So even whenever he's in linebacker, he's probably blitzing. He's going through one of the A-gaps because he is such a liability in coverage.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what you hope when you recruit a guy like that too, though, like that he's able to fill out and meet that potential, and sometimes they just don't quite do it. I mean, he's obviously a very gifted pass rusher if you just let him sit there and pin his ears back. But in any other,
it's also the ability, having multiple years of eligibility. This was a rebuilding year. Half of our roster is brand new.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like and look, I have no problem admitting it. After Saturday's game, I was pissed off. I mean, I wanted to win that game, and people kept saying, well, you're 8-2, staring 10-2 right in the face, back-to-back 10-win seasons. I don't care about any of that. I want to win the SEC, get in the playoffs, and win a national championship. He's raised expectations here, and that's the Lane Kiffin effect, though, and he said it in his press conference. They're not here to cover spreads, play people close. They're here for one reason only: win every single game they play.
One thing, whenever that game, it is okay to nitpick and be upset about that game, that 60-minute thing. And also on the other side, be unbelievably over the moon about the program. I mean,
Yeah,
it's two
yeah,
different conversations that
it
came out of
is.
the exact same game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, but even on that same note, I mean, how many times in the past, I mean, just go back to, 2014, 2015, those two Hugh Freeze years, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how excited were we that we were, that we went to a Sugar Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that case, it was the first time in my lifetime, and I thought that was the absolute pinnacle, but that was my mindset at the time. Well, now we've won 10 regular season games, been to another Sugar Bowl, and, we were in the playoff mix in November.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're in sitting there watching the baseball team do what they did, win a national championship. You can see it be done in other sports here at Ole Miss, and you really want to see it for the football program because that's really what makes the entire athletic program go. And Lane's really getting us to that point, and I know if he stays and keeps bringing these guys in, we're going to be able to get to that point here very soon.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like if you think of Ole Miss's glory period, and Ole Miss's glory period, realistic, was like 59 to 63. It was that 5 year period that is their actual glory period, even though Johnny Ball was very good and successful around that. But it was that 5 year period that everything built towards. And if you look at this team right now, this would be like 1956, 1957. And we're a good team. We're losing to Georgia Tech in the Sugar Bowl, stuff like that. But we haven't gotten to the level that we're going to get to. There is the ceiling that everybody thought that Ole Miss had. They do not have. That is absolutely clear. There's
Yeah,
people that made assumptions that just wasn't true.
it's a lot like Clemson back several years ago with
Mm-hmm.
Dabo, where they kept saying, it was the Clemsoning thing, right?
Yeah.
they'd get so close and then they'd lose those games at the end of the year to kind of get knocked out of it. There's a ceiling that you have to bust through, and Lane and this team and this entire program sitting there knocking on that ceiling, and it's starting to crack, and it's not going to be long before we bust through that thing.
Yeah, it's to the point where next season, if Lane stays here and everything's the same, Ole Miss is going to be a contender for the SEC West in the
Yes, yeah,
preseason.
yeah. I mean,
In the preseason.
yeah, I mean, you look at bringing Dart back, bringing
Mm-hmm.
Quinshawn back. We haven't
Healthy
even
Michael
brought up
Trigg.
Michael Trigg quite
Yeah.
yet. Yeah, exactly. We hadn't even talked about Trigg yet. Get him healthy, get him a little bit more involved. You see the flashes of the athleticism and the upside of him time and time again when he's on the field. So I mean it has the makings to be a really really good offensive group, and we got a lot of young guys on defense right now too. That are getting experience. And Lane's going to go after transfer portal hard. He does it every single year, and it's kind of what he's built this program on right now. And he goes and recruits and fills holes to develop kids and develop talent and all that, and then he goes to the transfer portal and gets his immediate needs from there. And it's working out like a dream right now. We've talked about before the year how it was going to work out, him going so transfer portal heavy, and I mean you see the results. It's hard to argue with them right now.
Yeah,
I
and
just want to say, sorry, I just want to say
go ahead.
real quick. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, but I think if you didn't you have a little respect for Dart after that game against Alabama, like you're
Yeah,
just
no
never gonna
kidding.
like you're just not ever gonna like him because what that kid went through, like he's a pretty tough kid there on
He
that.
is.
So Dallas Turner is not a small
You know
guy.
what? What
Neither is
next
Will
year? I
Anderson.
would not want to be. I would not want to be Dallas Turner in that game.
I want to punch
All right.
Dallas Turner in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, like, if you think about it, like, just watching Dart's like head, the way it went,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't sit down. He went back out there. He didn't try to, you know, he didn't complain. He kind of just took it and did what he kept his head in the game. And hey, you can't ask for someone to do better than that. Now we're used to Maddie. Maddie would have bowed up and like kind of given him a little shot,
Well,
but
Well, I'm gonna
like
say this: Jackson Dart in that game probably exceeded anything that Matt Corral did.
especially in his first year.
Yeah, his first. Yeah, in
Man, I
Matt's
just was
first year, he almost got in the Egg Bowl fight. But
Yeah, I mean, all right. So quick poll, real quick. who all thinks that Jackson Dart's mom actually said those things that Lane said in
No,
the press
there's
conference?
Nobody.
no way.
Nobody.
No way.
That's what I said. I said, there's
Zero
no
chance.
way she said any of that.
No chance.
No chance a nice Mormon woman said any of that to Lane Kiffin.
Hey, can I say something real quick?
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, the whole crux of what we're talking about tonight can be summed up in what I'm about to say. You
Okay.
you pay the man whatever it takes.
Mhm.
Period. We have not had a coach I'm 56 years old. We have not had a coach in my lifetime in the modern era like Lane Kiffin. He, 10 million, you give him 10 million. Whatever it takes to keep him in Oxford.
Yeah, if you have to make him the highest paid coach there,
Wow,
you
to
do
get
it.
another Lane Kiffin.
You have to laugh when you saw that because I'm like, whoever out there thinks that woman said that, like, uh, those are the
Well, you
moments you
even
just
kind of saw
kind
it
of
on his
love
face.
Lane. You just love Lane a little bit right there just from
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, he was trying his hardest not to laugh while he was telling that story, right?
Yeah.
Like you saw him sitting there, kind of crack up and grin and all that while he was sitting there telling that story, and I was thinking, man, who believes this?
You know what though? You have to credit then how close he probably is with the parents to know he could say that and
Yeah,
get
of
away with
course.
it. Like
Yeah.
she's not like, I don't
No,
think I
and
said that.
especially Dart's dad. Dart's dad. I mean, I've never met him or anything, but he seems like a real cool dude.
Oh, you're talking about Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a very nice guy. I just I had to laugh when I saw that because like, man, Lane, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
he
remember
is.
Lane Kiffin is the guy that tweeted out the three blind mice in referee uniforms at FAU and got fined?
Yeah. Man,
So,
there'll never be another one like him.
yeah. But Tom's absolutely right. If Ole Miss needs to go into debt to pay for Lane Kiffin, you do it for
Well,
5
of
years
course,
for the next.
of course you do.
Yeah.
You money won't be an issue. I don't think. I would like to think that we can come up with any kind of money we need to keep him.
Yeah. You like to think that. You don't. Okay. I don't
We
know
don't
who's in
know,
here,
obviously,
and I
but
don't know who's related to anybody in here, but I'll say it anyway. We need to be careful not to think like Peepo.
well, yeah, that would be wise.
Yeah, that would be the impediment to what's going on, and then it just doesn't matter. It's just a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
And
no,
and what I'm saying, my experience with Pete Boone, whenever I was working in the Manning Center, I used to have to catalog the number of videotapes I had before I was allowed to order more. So that was a Pete Boone order. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah, I believe. But look, and at the same time, though, it's completely different era, right? As far
yeah.
as the money coming into the athletic departments and all that, with all these big TV deals and all that. I mean, we can pay Lane whatever we need to pay him. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, we were the most watched game on any channel last week, and we had what 12 million viewers in
12
that
million
game.
viewers. It
Yeah,
was a it
yeah.
was
I
a
mean,
heck
that's
of a football game.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was. It was a really good football game, and it kind of speaks to what Lane's done to our brand too, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Alabama draws obviously because the kind of brand that they have nationally, and
Mm-hmm.
but that's one thing that Lane has now brought to Ole Miss is we're must watch TV whenever we're on that national stage now, and people tune in just to see it.
So let's change the subject a little bit. Have y'all seen the helmets for Tennessee?
No, I hadn't.
Orange helmets this weekend.
Oh man,
orange helmets
Orange
this
helmets
weekend.
with the white tee.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
that
Yeah. Now
beautiful orange.
they're on the road, so they're probably going to do the white jerseys and white pants, so it won't be too much orange. But yeah, they're planning on doing that this weekend against South
that
Carolina. So it
how
don't
do
matter.
you have like a picture you could share with me or something like that?
Just a second. Let me see if I can find it on here.
No, you're good.
And I haven't seen that yet, but Lord, that orange gets a little overwhelming for me.
You're not telling me anything new. Let's see. Tennessee football, the official account.
One word to describe an SEC fan base, according to Alex Anstead. He works for, he's the social media manager for Saturday Down South, Saturday Tradition, and all that stuff. And he said Ole Miss was Chad.
Yeah, I can see that. Honestly, could have been worse. Honestly, but
I mean, we're nice people down here. What can I say?
yeah. Let's see. How do I copy a link?
You got to remember, man, we're not snobs. We're just better than.
That's exactly right.
Let's see. I don't know how to share it. Good grief. If anybody knows how to share a picture on here, I will. Because I've got the Twitter.
Come on, Carrie. Help your boy out.
Hang on, send it to me.
Yeah.
Send me the post, and then I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm an old man, so technology can get me. So I need younger people to do it. Let's see.
Well, don't ask for my help. I'm still over here without internet, so I don't know a lot about that.
All right, I sent it to our group chat, Kara. But yeah, orange helmets. Hi, Brad. You want to speak, man? We're just in here talking about the week that is.
Oh goodness, those are terrible. Lord.
Well, Tennessee has 4 helmets this year they've worn. So they've worn the all black ones, they wore the smoky grays, their normal helmets, and now this orange.
I wish we
Good.
could get Brad up here because I do kind of want to hear Brad's take on Lane talking about Jackson Dart's mom's comments.
Yeah, I just invited.
I don't know if we can coax Brad into doing that, but
I invited him to speak, so he can play along if he wants to. How you doing, Brad?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Pretty good. We're just talking, shooting the noise.
Oh, I saw that helmet and I almost passed out.
Yes.
It's bad, man.
What did you say about Lane and
Jackson Dart's mom
I kind of
talking
wanted
about.
we all wanted to ask about Jackson Dart's mom being quoted by Lane, and wanted your perspective here on this.
I mean, it was just a brilliant move by someone that's just one step ahead of everybody else. I mean, he basically thought it was a joke that there wasn't a foul call whenever the defender, who, by the way, that's the same defender that ripped off the helmet, Jackson Dart, by the way.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a foul call when not only did he, push his head in the ground, he used Jackson Dart's helmet to get off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that, and think about if that were Bryce Young or, insert quarterback here, and he was frustrated with it, and I think I will say this: I know that Keith Carter was very, very frustrated, and I know that there were some obviously some conversations had with the office, but you guys know as well as I do that doesn't mean anything. That just, I guess, makes you feel better for the situation. But look, I don't know if you guys agree or not. I mean, I don't think officiating cost Ole Miss the game at all. I thought, and nobody's really talking about it either. It's been a lot of stuff going around. But look, Ole Miss was offsides on a big third down play. The Alabama receiver went out of bounds because Ole Miss forced him out. I mean, there were a couple of things that they missed on Alabama's way.
I don't think we're all mad at that. I think we're mad at the aggressive physicality that we would have been, blamed for that they weren't. And I think that's kind of where we're coming from we're frustrated with them more so than because if you look at the Tennessee game with Bryce, it was a different story. If you're not Alabama in those situations, they're not held accountable to the same as everyone else, and that's why they act the way they do.
Well, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but back in 1993, and I'm kind of dating myself, it was the first time Ole Miss had Keith Jackson in town. It was Ole Miss, Alabama.
Lawrence Adams.
Yeah, didn't have a great team, but late in the game, Ole Miss had a phantom pass interference foul, and At that point, I don't know if you remember Gary Abide from Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
He was so upset. He got tossed. It was just a great linebacker. And I was sitting by a gentleman that's still with us today, and he leaned over and he says, Brad, you might as well get used to this because it's always this way. That was 1993, and that
Mm-hmm.
was how many ever years ago that was. It really hasn't changed, and I don't know that it ever will. And the same thing happened in Starkville this year, and this past weekend when Georgia. I mean, they didn't need any help from the officials, and Mississippi State was they really got some bad calls on them. I had a chance to watch some of those replays, and it's just you hate to say that you want to say that it's fair, and you really do, but it feels like the haves always get the calls, and in some cases the have-nots don't, and it's frustrating,
Yeah.
but it's just something you kind of have to fight through.
Yeah, LSU got a phantom first down that nobody can see that anybody got anywhere close to stick. It was spotted for a first down on a 3rd and 1 to give Arkansas the ball back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one wasn't close. I couldn't believe that wasn't overturned on replay.
Yeah.
Just kind of going back to the Alabama thing real quick though, in the officiating. I'm kind of like Brad. You'll never hear me say officiating cost us or another team a game. It's such a rare occurrence that actually is the case. You have 4 quarters to win a game. The biggest problem I have with the officiating, the most egregious call that I had was that hold on Jordan Watkins there on that first down run with Jackson
Right.
Darts. He gets bulldozed over right there. I don't know
Yeah, and somehow
how
he
that's
held.
a holding call, and that gets called back. He ends up stalling a drive.
Hey, how
but,
about that? How about that missed pass interference call? I believe it was on Dayton
Yeah.
Parade.
yeah. I mean that too. But
Yeah, I kind of took the missed pass interference call because we got a first down that we really didn't. I kind of felt that was the give me call for the.
but again, I mean you
I
look
kind of
back
canceled that
throughout the
one out.
game. Yeah, you don't fumble there before half, and I know Zach Evans took a heck of a lick there to the head, and they're saying he was or wasn't concussed, whatever. I know he didn't come back into the game,
Oh, he was
whatever.
concussed, all right.
Yeah, I
He was
mean,
Yeah.
I know that's what it
But-
looked like.
But I don't know that it was targeting. I think that was just a really
No,
good
I
football
don't think
play.
it was either. That's the thing,
Yeah.
It's just one of those plays that happen, and
Right.
it's just that's football for you, right? It's one of those really unfortunate things that happen at a terrible time in the game because instead
It's
of
about
being
it was a 10 to 14 point
I don't
Yeah.
play.
think anybody
Yeah, exactly.
truly say we felt that the officiating is what lost us the game. I think it's more mad that we're protecting our quarterback from the fact that he got some stuff at him that we didn't like. Kind of like Texas with yours. Like
Well,
same
yeah.
thing with Dallas Turner. It's more of a hey, you don't need to do that to our quarterback. Like chill out. Like I think that's
Yeah,
more the concern.
The only
I bet-
foul that I thought was really, really bad, other than the egregious. I mean, I don't know why you don't call that personal foul there on Dallas Turner. I don't understand that. But the only one that I thought was really sketchy was the back judge made. Let's rewind for a moment. Let's go to the holding foul on Jordan Watkins when he came in motion and the strong safety trucked him.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
called a foul for holding. Okay, I'm going to construct this for a moment because, okay, once he comes in motion, the play happens, the run happens, the runner is past where the foul occurred.
Mhm.
They call the foul occurred, or quote unquote foul occurred. The runner's already got the first down. The back judge, 30 yards away, and I've got this on film, 30 yards away, throws a flag. The back judge. That's what I had a problem with. And by the way, in the 4th quarter, when Ole Miss was driving down the field, Cedric Johnson, guys, I'm not joking. The 2 offensive linemen for Alabama had a hold of both sides of his jerseys, pulling him to the ground.
Mhm.
They throw the flag, and I'm like, my gosh, the guy is getting just absolutely mauled. And then the official comes out and says there's no foul on the play.
Yeah. I
You
was
could even see
losing
him
my
do the
mind at
hold
that point.
signal, and then he just stopped, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I don't get it. And
I was absolutely losing my mind as that play was
those
going
are the only
on,
two
screaming,
that were.
holding,
Those are the only
holding.
two that I thought were really, really weird. The rest of them were subjective, and we could go either way. And I don't think they purposely did not call the foul on Turner for. I don't think he was looking at it. I don't think you were paying attention.
I agree.
But But the only things that I did kind of roll my eyes a little bit was the holding foul and when they picked up the holding foul in the fourth quarter. That was a little weird.
Yeah.
So, Brad, we talked about it a little earlier. What's your take on the Arkansas game? I know, but nobody's talking about the Arkansas game. But what's your take on the Arkansas game?
Well, I try not to get too bogged down in numbers, but I can't help it. Ole Miss has only won twice, both in 2000 and 2007 when Houston Nutt returned. And even in 2007, if you'll remember, Arkansas recovered an onside kick, and Ole Miss was the beneficiary of a couple of foul calls, defensive pass interference calls that kept them in the game. So it's just not a place that's conducive to win for Ole Miss. I know everybody on this call can remember the games in the past. Back, I think it was when Hugh took a team up there and lost 30-0, then had a pretty good team with Bo Wallace. It just has not been great. I kind of wish it were in Fayetteville, we're in Little Rock, because Ole Miss plays so much better in Little Rock. So I think it sets up really to where I feel like Sam Pittman and that offensive staff under Kendall Briles, they held KJ Jefferson for this game. I think Jefferson wants it bad. He's from Sardis, right down the road, played at North Panola. So I expect Arkansas to come out and play really hard for Sam and for KJ. The weather's not great. I mean,
so it's going to be
I don't know
13 degrees.
Yeah, I don't know how well Ole Miss plays in the cold. I know Lane hates it, and he's been pretty open that he abhors cold weather. So I think there's some caution there with the weather. But I think, as long as you have Quinshon Judkins, who's an absolute monster, trucking people, I think he's going to get his. The question is that going to be enough? Can Ole Miss stop the rushing attack? I mean, they didn't stop Jefferson last year. They just outlasted them. But this Ole Miss defense is better, and the Arkansas offense is not as good. I mean, Traylon Burks is in the league now. They don't really have anyone to throw it to. So, I think Ole Miss is a much better team. The line scares me a little bit. It's only 2.5. So, I think Ole Miss probably wins the game. Probably not as comfortable as people would like, but it sets up, should set up pretty well for next week's Egg Bowl, in which Mississippi State's, they've got 2 weeks. They've got basically a bye week. They're playing a terrible team in East Tennessee State, they're a terrible FCS team. And so they basically got a free week to rest people. And so I think more than anything, it's an opportunity for Ole Miss to get to 10 wins again. And I think they can do that. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that, when Arkansas is 10-2 in Fayetteville against Ole Miss, that does bother me a little bit. They just don't play well. They've never played well in Fayetteville, like I said, except for 2 times. And the last time they won back in 2007, that was not a very good Arkansas team, and they were able to come away with a win. So we'll see soon enough.
Yeah, and if you remember correctly, Brad, you probably go back as long as I do. There was a game that David Cutcliffe went up to Fayetteville that Arkansas scored a touchdown on one of Ole Miss's kickoff returns.
Yep, they did. I want to say it was 99 or 98. Yeah, it'd have been 90. It was 98. 98. That was Motor City Bowl year. So it was 98 because 2000 they won with Deuce in the rain.
Yep. And also the Egg Bowl, for everybody knows, it's 60% chance of rain right now. So
that would be very fitting.
Soggy Egg Bowl.
I do know that Mississippi State returned, I think, 50% of their tickets. So there will be very few Mississippi State fans there.
So that's they returned them.
What's going to happen with that program if Ole Miss beats Mississippi State pretty good? So a lot of things over the next 2 weeks are going to be interesting, to say the least, for this Ole Miss program. Depending on what happens with Lane Kiffin at Auburn, and then what happens, one way or the other, and then you've got to factor in the Egg Bowl, and then you factor in a Sam Pittman team that's got their back against the wall. They need to win at least one out of the next 2 to get to a bowl game. I never dreamed I would say that about an Arkansas team this year, coming in with Rocket Sanders is a really good running back, and I guess I don't think I took into account just how much they would miss Traylon Burks, and they just didn't have anybody return wide receiver. They just don't have anybody to throw it to.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Also, while I got you on the phone, Brad, what do you think about that list of potential coaches should Lane Kiffin bolt that's going around, like the Alex Galesh and those guys?
Well, that's coming from Ben Garrett, and Ben is very sourced on this. I trust Ben's list very much so. Now, the only person I did not see on the list that I think would make a fantastic coach at Oxford is Dan Lanning. Lanning backed out, or quote unquote backed out. What I think happened is Oregon is going to pay him a king's ransom to stay. I think Dan Lanning's a fantastic coach. And for folks on here that don't know, Dan Lanning's offensive coordinator at Oregon. And to really break it down for you, Dan Lanning is the reason that Kobe Dean is in Georgia or played at Georgia and not come to Ole Miss. Lanning is a fantastic recruiter. He has surrounded himself with great assistants, and if he's going to get a head job soon, and when he does, he's going to, I see a head job soon. He's going to get somewhere in the Southeast, I think, eventually, and he's going to make a great coach in the Southeast for sure. I thought the list was pretty good. Obviously you've got some of the same names that we've heard in the past. I think for Ole Miss fans, they don't want to have to get there. Honestly, I mean, you want to keep the guy you have. I don't know. Someone spoke a moment ago. How much would it take to keep Kiffin? I think the answer is whatever it takes. Yeah. I don't think from people I've spoken to that money is going to be a huge deal. I think the problem is going to be the NIL portion of this. If Auburn has a pretty good size NIL opportunity and it's much larger than Ole Miss, you have to wonder, does that factor in? On the flip side, Ole Miss goes 8-4, 9-3, 5 or 6 years in a row. Lane Kiffin can stay as long as he wants. If he does that at Auburn, that's not going to last. And I don't know that he would have the freedom that he has now to go back and forth to Boca. Full autonomy, honestly, at the football program. Changing uniforms every week. Is Auburn going to allow him to do that? Small things like that people need to understand that. If that's an opportunity that he appreciates, can he do the things that he does in Oxford via social channels and that sort of thing? Could he do that at Auburn? So many things, so many factors at play. But at the end of the day, generational money. And if you're talking 10-year, $100 million, $150 million, whatever the number is, I mean, if you talk generational money, I mean, I don't know how Ole Miss can match, obscene amounts of money like that. But you know what? We'll see. And I figure that happens over the next couple of weeks, to say that.
So
I think the Iron Bowl Saturday is probably when we'll know for sure one way or the other, if not sooner.
So, Brad, let's hear real quick. You brought up the money, and I kind of want to ask a question on that, because if you look at the money, right? So they still owe Gus a good amount, like at least $8 million left on his buyout, and now they're going to owe $15 million to
Parson.
You got Gene Chizik's on the hook. You've got
I was like, and then I think they still owe like $600K to his. So you're like, if you were to factor in how much they're paying each year, right, annually, plus if you add in, like, let's say a $12 million, and then plus Lane's buyout, so you're looking at almost $30 million for 2023 in coaching. Three of those, like a portion of that, to nothing that benefits your program, but the head coach. Like, I can't imagine you make that kind of move, like, without the merit. Not say I love Lane, don't get me wrong, but how do you make that move or justification there when
well, I mean,
he has no SEC championships, he has no, like, as a program? I'm just curious. I'm very curious on that.
I mean, you take a Justin Hawkinson for, I think he's with On 3 or 247, I forget, but he pointed out that the number floating around was 7-year for $77 million, all guaranteed. So you turn that 30 into 100 when you start factoring in all the other monies. I mean, $100 million is an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
But you've got to, it's a different game. And if you pay Freeze, that was what I'm about to get to. If you don't pay Lane this amount of money, where do you go next? I think the logical answer is Hugh Freeze. I think Hugh Freeze, you can say what you want to about Hugh Freeze from a moral standpoint, from a personal standpoint, whatever. That dude's a really good football coach, and he's a really good recruiter, and I think he would kill it at Auburn. So if they don't get Lane and things work out and he stays at Ole Miss, right now I'd probably be, probably 60-40 that Lane's the coach at Ole Miss next year. And I think a lot of that is simply because of what I talked about earlier about the autonomy of the program. I think he's going to get a nice raise. I mean, I think things are in place. We saw, Stephen, you may need to help me. There was a change in the director of operations today. The university announced for football. So
I didn't see that.
Well, I don't know that comes out unless there's a reason. If that makes sense. If you're going to release something like that, what else is going on behind the scenes?
I heard about that a little earlier too. I wasn't sure how true it was.
But he's the football operations. He's released that. So I thought the timing of that was quite interesting. So,
Hey,
yeah.
You know, I think
Brad, I
Lane
got
is going to stay.
Okay.
Just a second, man. Real quick. I think he's going to stay. But the one name that Ole Miss fans I think needs to circulate is Jeff Trainer. If Ole Miss needs to go out looking, I think that's the guy that Ole Miss needs to call first. That honestly, that's just my opinion, and that's not just like an FU to the NCAA with Hugh Freeze, but this is like a guy that's dominating college Conference USA. His only 2 losses this year are to ranked teams and some UTSA. And if you go look on their highlights on YouTube, I mean, there's a lot that could be done similarly with the talent that we already have. But that's just my opinion. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Brad, I just had a quick question about so regardless, we played Bama close, toe to toe. But what did you hear about recruiting? Obviously it's our biggest weekend of the year so far, but so any updates on how visits went or if we have any momentum leading for
Yeah.
any player, I guess.
Yeah, I think it went really well. David Johnson interviewed a lot of folks coming home or on their way home, and there are a couple of stories on 24/7 site. And also, I know Zach Berry does a lot with On3, and he and Big Garrett do a great job recruiting. So everything that I've read has been very positive. Obviously, all that goes out the window if Lane goes to Auburn. So obviously that they're selling a dream, and right now that dream includes Lane Kiffin wearing the hoodies and doing all the swag and the drip and all that stuff that I'm so old and old fashioned I don't know a lot about. But what I do know is that younger generation loves it. And what we're seeing is a new day in Ole Miss sports. I can't go back to enough to what the person said earlier. Whatever it takes, and I think that's what you have to do if you're Keith Carter. And I promise you, as an Ole Miss person, that's someone that's followed the sport, followed the university, I don't know that I would be pleased if I were a fan to have anyone other than Keith Carter in the position he's in. Because Keith is incredibly bright. But the good part about Keith is he knows how to relate from the person that gives $5 to the person that gives $500 million. And I think in order to make a coaching hire, I think as an Ole Miss fan, you can feel very, very happy that Keith's in the position he's in. Once again, I stick by the fact I think right now that he stays based on everybody that I spoke to, but obviously that can change. Jimmy Sexton is good at his job for a reason, and we'll see where it's going from there. But recruiting's going really well. Thanks everybody. I've got to run, but
appreciate it, Brad. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Brad. Have a good one, bud.
No, I just saw it was interesting because earlier today we got a crystal ball for 4-star running back in the 2023 class, Christopher Johnson, and he was considered a heavy Miami lean. He's from the Miami area. He's from Fort Lauderdale, goes to Dillard High School, but he's not the biggest running back in the world, and it's not his first visit at Ole Miss either. So, obviously, we made momentum with him. We know that much because there was a crystal ball put in, but I was just curious if Brad had any other, anything else to say.
I think either Monday's show or Tuesday's show on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we actually talked about Christopher Johnson a little bit, and this was before he was crystal balled. I think that the Lane Kiffin is going to recruit a running back that can complement Quinshon Judkins. I mean, I think that's the goal. So they're looking for I call him Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside because Zach Evans is Mr. Outside, Quinshon's Mr. Inside. They need to find another Mr. Outside. And Chris Johnson, I think, fits that bill as kind of a scat back. If you watch his highlights on Huddle, I mean, these guys have a type. They can find really good players, and their evaluations of running backs are really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's Lane's bread and butter is running the ball all game. So, but no, it was good to see. I've talked to Bryson Sanders a little bit, but no, it's just good. Bryson's I would say one of, if not our biggest recruiter. But I mean, it's just good to see our class is sticking together, and nobody's really dropping out to go anywhere. So.
Yeah, I think 9 out of 13 players committed are blue chip.
Our blue chip ratio is off the charts.
Yeah, it's impressive. All right, I think we're going to shut it down here, everybody. Thank you very much for coming by and participating in this space. This will be a lot of fun. If you want to listen to it again and see what you missed, it'll be up tomorrow on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, or you can catch the recording on Twitter as well. So thank you very much for that. If you need anything, participate in the comments, tweet at us. Me, Derek, Kara, Tom, we're more than happy to answer any questions or handle any situation that might come up.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Reed, for listening today. I saw you. I didn't want to get you to speak or whatever, just to intrude, but I did see you. So thank you for stopping by again, and I will see everybody next week for the Egg Bowl space, which I think should be quite fun. All right.
Dude,
Anyway,
that.
take care, guys.
Hi,
Hi,
Todd, y'all.
Patty.